Merlin, network magic, a better CLI command. How about this, everybody? Let's just take a look at the old way. So I'm in the DevNet sandbox here, and there's a router, 10, 10, 20, 58. What's the old way, right? Well, okay, log into 10, 10, 20, 58, and we're going to put in our admin account and our password, and then we're going to maximize the screen, and then we're going to do show IP interface brief. And even with my shorthand, I still have to type it in. So this is what we want, right? This information. What VLANs do we have, or interface for SVIs, loopbacks, physical interfaces, their IP address, and their interface status. And I have to analyze this, or I have to turn on, right, change settings, logging, print a pull output, and put this to some file somewhere. Here's the better way. What we're going to do instead is open up a browser, and we're going to go to a DNS entry. Right now it's just localhost 8080, but that could be DevNet sandbox.merlin 8080, right? I'm still working out DNS. Well, here are the DevNet Sandbox Nexus 9000 services, and we have show IP interface brief. And this is the better version, the modern version of the show IP interface brief command. So I have a nice HTML table here. I've put logic in to say if it's up, 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 meaning the protocol, the link in the admin state is up, make it green. Otherwise, make it red. So just at a quick glance, I have 3 interfaces up, right? Now, what else do I have? Well, I've linked the raw JSON. This is what pyATS gives you. If you look at pyATS.parse show IP interface status, this is the JSON command output. I also have it in YAML format. Look at that, a nice YAML dictionary. I also have it in a CSV file, which I'm going to click, and it downloads. And yeah, I can open it here in Notepad, but here let's do something instead. Let's do file, open file, show local, and now I can put it into preview. So now I have it as a searchable, sortable, right? Only show me ones that are up or down, right? Right in VS Code, in a click from a portal, from a web service. Pretty incredible. And then I also have it in Markdown, and I could do the same thing. I could download that Markdown. Now, what else do I have? Well, I can launch Postman. I always do that. Postman. This I think is pretty neat. And remember the JSON that I showed you? Well, it's a web service. It answers to an HTTP GET, and there is the JSON in Postman as a REST call. If I go right against the main device, I get the HTML page and the background colors and all of the links and everything. And I could follow these links. Now, I don't know what the CSV looks like inside of Postman, but we can certainly try it. Look at it, right? How about the Markdown? How about the YAML? Pick your flavor. What do you like? What don't you like? Have it any way you want. Now, what about a refresh? What about changing the data? And again, I am very transparent here, so let's do it. Conf t no int lo100 show IP int brief. It is gone. Now, I have yet to figure out how to, well, here's what I have figured out. I explored cron jobs, and unless I'm missing a flag or I'm doing something wrong, it was making a new pod. I actually filled my hard drive with pods and had to shut my computer off. No kidding, no kidding. So cron jobs, unless I'm missing a flag to say every minute don't make a new pod, every minute restart my existing pod. So how can I do this? Well, I can do it right here in my Docker container apps. And if I look for IP int brief here and find the pod, here, I can restart the pod. Now, this action I'm doing here, this button, I will find out a way to just do this every 30 seconds. Now, this is going to restart the job here. And all I need to do, in theory, is, okay, the web server's down, and there it's gone. It is gone, right? Notice we're down to 2 green interfaces. So I have a little bit of integration to sort out the automatic restarting of that job. And the other thing, let me show you some of the magic here. What I'm doing is, before I just jump back, so there's a couple of ways we can explore this. This is the code base in VS Code File Explorer. And I have my homepage compose, or not my compose, excuse me, my homepage Kubernetes services, and my deployment and service for IP interface brief. I can then click the Kubernetes button here, and it brings me into my Docker desktop cluster. I have a node called Docker desktop, and inside of the node, I have all of these in their green, and they have different IP addresses. They're, right, the different pods that are running and the namespace they're in. Now, under workloads, I have my deployment. Oh, I don't have a deployment. Why don't I have a deployment? There's my pods. There's my deployments. I'm sorry, I had to hit refresh there. So, excuse me. In my deployment, I've deployed the homepage and IP interface brief. I have my pods here. Now this is where my cron jobs were, and it just filled and filled and filled and filled with pods until I ran out of disk space, and I crashed everything, which I'm sort of proud of. It was like an infinite loop or something. Be careful with cron jobs. So then I have my services here. Now I believe, and let's try this. I don't know, but I think if I go to my pods, and let's say IP interface brief here, right? I believe I can right click. Okay, I can only delete it. There's no, and then there's port forward. Cool. So this port forwarding, that's interesting. I can do that in VS Code. Really nice. What I've done, why that's important, I have 2 Ubuntus running here with the ports forwarding. And you can see the connection handling for 8081 and 8080, my home page and my IP interface brief. It's interesting that I can right click and say port forward from here. I guess I could delete it and then it would just get recreated right away, which would force a reload of it. Can we try that? Can you bear with me? Let's try this. Conf g int loop back 200 description delete test IP address 10.10.10 200 255 255 2550 no shut. I don't know. I really don't know. If I delete the pod, I think it's going to get immediately recreated. Deleting pod. And now if I go to my, I'll need a new Ubuntu, and go into that, I don't even think I need to go to the folder. Cube control, get pods. So it's terminating the IP interface brief, and a new one is running 13 seconds ago. So let's see if I refresh my page. Maybe it's not up yet. Maybe the web service isn't up yet. Or maybe when yeah, you see what happened here? I understand. Okay. My identifier changed. My pod ID changed. So my port forwarding is no good anymore here. 8081. That pod doesn't exist anymore. So let's stop that. Let's try this port forwarding now that I have a new. Let me refresh this, and I think the pod ID will be different maybe. Or let me see here. Yeah, let me check workloads, pods, and it's running XRV. So now let me try that port forward, and we're going to say 8081 to 8080. Oh, it does it right in here. I don't need to do it. Oh, cool. And now, if I refresh, I should have loopback 200. All right, so that's a little bit of discovery and learning. But can I just, Is there a way for me to do that automatically somehow? Pretty neat though. So we've looked at some VS Code integrations now, some kube control commands. I have a web service of show IP interface brief. I'm going to keep looking and keep trying to find one, the port forwarding. Is that something I have to do externally to once Kubernetes is up? Can I put that port forwarding into bringing up Kubernetes? And can I also find some way to every 30 seconds delete? I don't want to say delete. Either restart an existing pod or delete and create a new pod with port forwarding. Either one of those things will work. Thanks for tuning in. I'm having a lot of fun. This is really getting exciting. Stay safe and stay tuned for many more videos about Kubernetes. Hey everybody, I'm back. I know I was wrapped up that video like it was over, but I have made the two little breakthroughs that I needed. One, the automatic port forwarding, so that I don't have to turn on port forwarding as a command. My web service is listening, that I can just visit it. And two, a way to automatically, continuously, gracefully restart our pods, our solution, to give pyATS a chance to grab fresh data. Now I have that running at a 1 minute interval now, and let's take a look. Again, I will show you it in action to show that I'm not cheating or anything. So, and then I'll come back to the solution on how I figured these two pieces out. So I'm going to go to localhost, and now instead of 8080 or 80, I'm going to go to port 30,000, which is a Kubernetes service node port range. And we'll see that in a second. But I have this home page, and now let's go to show IP interface brief, which I've made 30,001. And, this is back to the standard. So let's do some things, right? Conf t int lo loopback 100, IP address 10.10.10.100, 255.255.255.0. No, the description doesn't show up, but Merlin, no shut. All right, now I don't have my web page on an automatic refresh, but that was 334, and it's on a 1 minute interval. So, right, we just have to wait the minute. I could bring that down to maybe 30 seconds might be better. I don't know how real time do we need it. I think a minute's not bad. So it's not there yet, and I don't know, like if we look here in VS Code, we can see that my cron jobs are going, and this is my pod that should be restarting. I don't know why it has an error, why they have errors, but let me refresh the screen. And there it is, right? Hands-free, no commands, no CLI, no PuTTY, no Prime or SolarWinds, right? A totally free, totally homebrew solution with open source tools that is just running in real time. A little robot running the IP interface brief command. Right now we can, know that out. I was poking around the VS Code. There are some things I might need to clean up a little bit, but this is a working solution at this point. No int lo, loopback 100, and let's do int loopback 200, IP address 10.10.10 200, and we could do do show in status. We go int eth11 IP address, no switch port. Oh, it's already in a port channel. I didn't see that. All right, okay. What about 1.3? Conf t in eth13. And what about this? Has that changed to 2? See, it's 200. Right? And I don't need to keep adding and removing interfaces, but that's what I wanted to show everyone. Now, what was the secret to some of this success? Well, let's talk about the port forwarding first, which was a change inside of the service definition. All right, so this is my home page, and when I visit page, port 30,000 on localhost, this is my IP interface brief, port 30,001. Well, you'll notice it's a new node port. So I have my port and my target port, which I could do port forwarding on and port forward and get this talking on port 8081. Well, they have this optional field, and I typed this comment in from where I found this code. Kubernetes control plane will allocate a port from the range of 30,000 to 32. So I have, 2,767 ports to play with here. And this alone made it where I didn't need to do that port forwarding business. Now, in terms of the cron job, what you'll notice is I have a new definition here, a new manifest that is a batch version 1 cron job. And I have a schedule of every minute here, 1 minute. And my container is kube control from bitnami kube control. And then the commands I want to run it. And there's my kube control rollout, restart, deployment, and restart my IP interface brief deployment. And I could comma separate interface brief with all the deployments I want to reset, making it on a minute reset everything and go collect all the state information from the network. Now in Kubernetes here, you see I have a new cron job here, the restart. And if I go here to the CLI and do, I didn't want to do that. Get cron jobs, there's my cron job. And if I get pods, you're going to see some completed deployment restart pods and the running ones as they start to run. So that just continuously refreshes my container. So where do I go next? Well, I have a huge library of commands that I want to continuously add, right? I started with interface brief. I'd like to do a learned function like learned platform and build up that home page of services to a bunch of links downstream to this suite of web services. The files, the JSON, the REST API, the real-time refreshing of these commands, and we're going to go from there. Thanks again for sticking around. Stay safe.